In this session, we're going to take a look at creating an MMA style design very quickly and very easily in CorelDRAW. But we're also going to take a look at working with just two colors. One of the things I want to make us aware of in the industry is the fact that even if we're dealing with limited presses, 4-color presses, we can still, if we know what graphics to work with, create very high-end looking art that's going to give us a distinct advantage competitively in our marketplace. You know, if you're printing for events or for organizations and you're setting up designs like this with 2 or 3 colors, and the guy down the street is setting up some simple MMA text with a karate clip art on it, you're going to have an enormous advantage against that competition as far as business and screen printing in your local market. And then when your client shows up at an event with a garment like this, and the other guys are just wearing some clip arty stuff, you can imagine what the other people at the event are going to say. They're going to be asking, where'd you get that t-shirt? And obviously they're going to be coming to you for their screen printing. And we've heard it for so long in the industry, you know, vector, vector, vector. And yes, we need vector, and a lot of times we do need to vector trace things, no doubt about it. But there is the ability, if you have the right tools and understand how to use your graphics design application, to take things to a much higher level very quickly and very easily. I'm going to see here that I'm going to create this design and go through some steps here and give you some powerful tips and information to work with. But I could set up a design like this literally in 15 to 20 minutes. If I wanted to spend an hour on it, I could take it completely off the wall and make something that looked totally incredible and still only be working with 2 colors. So to get started here, the first thing I want to do is take a look at our image. And I actually got this image from wikimedia.org, and you can find a lot of free open source images here. Now this is under a Creative Commons, so you can go here and take a look at this and see who the attribution belongs to, etc. But there's a lot of free open source images available here that you can download and use. Now this is an ideal image, and what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to take this image and we're just going to print with 2 colors. We're going to use the color of our garment in the printing process, and we can get that kind of look you see in the MMA designs and on the retail shelves in the stores and the things like that. And you know, as I've said very often, your clients are buying art on garments. If you're doing better art, you're going to have a distinct advantage. And that's a lot of what's been kind of left out of the picture in our industry. You know, everybody's got vector stuff and this and that and the other, but no one has really exposed how it is that even with a 2-color press or a 3-color press, you can work with these things. And it's all been said that you have to do that in Photoshop. And again, we've proven that that isn't true and that you need 7 colors to do that. Once again, that's coming out of a lack of understanding as to what's really possible. So let's take a look at this. And first thing I want to do is do some image analysis, because that was a JPEG that I downloaded there. So I'll go ahead and take this comp here. I'm not going to need this anymore, so I'll go ahead and delete this and we'll start working with our image here. First thing I'm going to do is do some analysis, and I'll zoom in. I'll start looking at things here, and you can see that as I zoom in here I can see some JPEG artifacts in here, and I can tell there's been some damage here in the image. Now the first thing I'm going to do is make some analysis of that. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again. I'm going to go to Effects, Adjust, and all I want to do is get a look at what's going on with my color and the JPEG damage. I'm going to go ahead and reset this so that you can see how I do this. Go ahead and zoom out here a bit. I'm going to go ahead and go to my color mode here and change that to CMYK. I'm going to go to the black channel and just bring this black slider down to 0 and hit Preview. And I just knocked all that black out. Now I want to come back in here with that black knocked out and take a look at what we got here. We've got a lot of JPEG damage in here. Now working with black images, this is going to be a problem in my separations because it's going to be picked up. It's going to be difficult to work with. Now there's a tool in CorelDRAW that can help me deal with that. And we'll bring this over here, duplicate this again, and we'll look at that. I'm going to go to, actually we'll go ahead and zoom in here. I'm going to go to Bitmaps, and I'm going to go to Image Adjustment Lab. Actually I can zoom in right in here. And we can see where this JPEG damage is in here. Right in here we can see that starting to float around in there. Now if I come over here to Shadow and I just kind of push this over a little bit, let that process, you can see what we just did. We just got rid of all of that. And we don't want to have too much force in there. I can see we still got some of that here. I'm going to go ahead and bring that down to right about there. Then I'm going to select OK. Now let's go ahead and analyze this again. We'll go to Effects. Now that we've done that adjustment, and we'll go to Channel Mixer. Got the same settings, and we'll select OK and let that process. And now you can see we got rid of all of that. So we've gone from quite a bit of destruction here to not having the destruction here. And that's very important because we don't want to have that when we start color separating. I'll hit Control Z and that'll take us back to our original image. I'll be working with just this one, so I won't need this here. I'm going to go ahead and bring this over here. We'll go ahead and create a copy of this, duplicate this here. Now the next thing I want to do is do some analysis here with my eyedropper, make sure these are 0 zeros. Now if this was gray 444, not quite 100% black, I'd have an issue because when I invert and convert this, it won't come out as a pure white, and I'd have some color. But I'm going to use this to create a mask. Next step is bitmaps, convert to bitmap, and we're going to go with a grayscale. Not going to have anti-aliasing, going to select OK. Now, next thing I'm going to do is Effects, Transform, and Invert. Now this image I'm going to use to create a mask to pull the color out of the black, or to pull the black background away from the color so I can use the black of my shirt. Now, doing that, all I'm going to do is just go ahead and go to Edit Bitmap and open this up in Corel Photo Paint. And I'm going to create a mask here. So what I want to do is I'm in a grayscale. I'm going to go up here to Image. I'm going to go to Convert to CMYK. And you'll see here in my channel docker that pushed all of my black data into the black channel. And that's where I wanted it, because I'm going to go up here to Mask. I'm going to go Create. I'm going to go Channel to Mask and select OK. Then, very important step here, Image, and go back here and change to an RGB. I'm going to go back to CorelDRAW. I'm going to grab this image here, go ahead and duplicate that, copy that. No, I didn't want to paste. I want to copy that. Or I could just hit Control C, and then we'll go ahead and paste this in. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn off this background just by clicking on this object here, the little eye icon there. Now, if I just hit the delete key now, I'm just going to delete my object. That's not what I want. I have to come over here and click on a masking tool and then hit the delete key. And now I've knocked all that out. And I can go to Mask, Remove, and then just go ahead and save this. And then I'll go ahead and close Paint, and here we have pulled that out of our image, or pulled our color out from our black. Let me create a vector object, and we'll just kind of put a box around this. I'll fill that with black, and then I'm going to go ahead and right click on this order, and I'm going to select to back of page, and you can see what we've got here. Now we're going to be printing on a black garment. So that being the case, I'm looking at this, I'm saying to myself, well, I don't like the way the line on the stomach here is so flat. So what can I do about that? Well, I can open this back up in Photo Paint. So I'll go to Edit Bitmap, and we'll just kind of erase along the bottom of the image here just to get ourselves so that we're not dealing with the next. I'll go ahead and resize this just a little bit here, and I'll get an eraser tool. Let that process, and I'm going to go ahead and change this eraser tool to, let's say, 200, and I'll just key that in, or 300, and hit enter. And all I'm going to do here is just erase some of this roughness, or that flat edge that's on that bottom of the image there. I want to make sure we don't have our head upside out of the area of the design here, which we don't, and I want to come down here and verify that. Now I'll just go ahead and save this again, close Photo Paint, and there you can see at least that's not a flat line there anymore. Now I want to bring this vibrance back up so it looks kind of like the original image. Now remember, we're not doing for exact reproduction, we're using this image for artistic purposes, part of our design. So not to be exact here, but I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, paste this back in one time, paste it back in. So we've got 3 of those. Now with this set up here like this, all I'm going to do is just go ahead and select all 3 of these objects. I'll go to Bitmaps, convert to Bitmap. I want transparent background, anti-aliasing. I'm going to select RGB, and I'll select OK. Now this image is prepped for going to separation, but what I want to do is add some graphic design to this. Now I like to work with t-shirts and comps while I'm working. I'm not going to need this image, and I'm not going to need this image anymore. I'm going to go to my Advanced Tools, Design Base, and get myself a comp to design on, just so that I get a good idea of what my graphic is going to look like on the t-shirt while I'm working with it. I already had a copy of the Design Base open, that's why that came there. But I want to go to my men's here, go to Full Front Comp, and we'll bring that in. I'll grab just the t-shirt here, and I'll go ahead and resize that so that I can fit my image on there. I'll go ahead and delete this stuff here. I'm going to change this to, let's say, a gray, and we'll right click here for a black, and then I'll just go ahead and duplicate this on top of my t-shirt. Now if I wanted to, I could do some other adjustments and changes and tweaks here if I wanted to, but at this point in time I don't think that's going to be quite necessary. Now you can see this is kind of like a gray color here. I'm going to go ahead and make this just a little bit darker right there so it looks more like a black. Now working with this, next thing I want to do is start adding some things to the design. So probably do some MMA text here. So I'll just go type in MMA and I'll get a font for this here. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to Porticulian. Go ahead and resize this and bring this over. And at this point in time I can start getting pretty free with my design process, you know, because I'm working in Draw. I've got simple steps raster, so I can separate anything, and so I'm really not limited to vector. I can do raster, what have you. So I'll probably come in with some brush effects like we had in the original design at this point. But here's my MMA text, and for my brushes, what I'll come over here is to my artistic media tool, and I've got some brushes here in brush pack 1. Actually, I want to go and browse to those, make sure I've got the right ones here. I've got the soft airbrush. Go ahead and select OK. Make sure we go to custom here, and we've got some different airbrush brushes here. I'll go with this one here, but I don't want to select that while I've got an object selector to apply that to my object, and I don't want to do that. So I want to click off here and go down here again and make sure I've got the brush I want selected. Zoom out just a little bit here. I'm going to play off the shoulder here, so I'll just left click and kind of drag this in here and make this look like a flame effect coming off of one side here. I can click and change that to a white to give that some more definition. I'll double click here. I can see I've got an extra node there, and we've got some node here, and I want to bring this off the shoulder kind of like the effect is coming off of the fighter like flames. And I want to go back and double click here with my pick tool, and I'll go back to my shape tool and bring this back down along this way here, and just kind of like the whole thing is coming, the whole effect is building, and we just deleted that node by accident, and bring this off this way and left click here. And we've got a whole training series on the site relating to working with these brushes in CorelDRAW, and they're just great design assets for creating really nice custom art looks. Instead of working with static clip art, you can actually flow the art and effects the way you would want them in your design. We can see how we got this set up here. I'm going to double click again, just pull this down this way here a little bit and tweak that in just a bit there. And I'll go ahead and get another brush here, and I'm going to come off of this side here, kind of like I'm coming off of his fist there, and pull that up that way. I'll change that to a white, get my pick tool, double click on this. We'll bring this up over here to the one side. I can see I've got a node there I don't want. I'll just lasso and delete that. I'm going to do the same thing here and just tweak out a bit. Go ahead and do some adjustments here, something like this, and just shape that right into my fighter here so it looks like this maybe is coming off of his hand there, and then that's going to be flowing in that way right there. And then I can go back to the artistic media tool and change the width of that a little bit and give it a little bit more detail, something like that right there. Now this being set up, I can look at this and see if I'm happy with it, and I kind of want to bring this here, and I might want to bring this off down here a little bit more, and then bring another node in up here that I can get, and then shade this in this way. And I'm just kind of tweaking the flow of these here, as you can see right there. Now I'm going to put some blur on these in a minute just to make them look more like a smoke or a flame type look, just to give the fighter a little bit more of a look that's just got a little bit more of an aggressive look with some like flames or smoke going on in the design, even though I'm just working with a few colors. Now looking at the two of these, I'm pretty happy with these the way they are right here. I'll go ahead and select these, and I'll just right click here and I'll select break 4 objects apart. That's going to let me delete the vector lines that the brushes were attached to. I'll go ahead and make sure I've got this selected here. I'm going to take this, I'm going to go to bitmaps, convert to bitmaps. I'm going to go with a grayscale, anti-aliasing transparent background, select OK. Now I'm going to do an effect here. I'm going to go to bitmaps, and you can see we're going right outside of the vector realm and into a nice raster design stuff here. I'm going to go to blur, Gaussian blur, and we'll take a look at this. I'm going to bring this up to, like, let's say 16 pixels and hit preview, and that'll be just fine. That's nice and soft there, and give that a nice effect. We'll do the same thing here. Bitmaps, convert to bitmap, grayscale, transparent background, go to bitmap, blur, Gaussian blur again, same thing, 16 pixels, select OK, let that process. Now this one we could take and say order, and we'll put this behind. We'll order, I'll go in front of and click on the t-shirt here. You could have that right in there. Now the way that's set up, because of the darkness of the shadow, that's really not going to work in the background, so it's going to have to stay in the front. I'll hit Control Z and we'll work with that. Now here I've got my MMA text. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just cut this and paste it back in so it's on top of the bitmap and I can select it. Now here I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to put an outline on this, but first thing I'll do is just go ahead and convert this to curves, because it's easier to work with the objects when they're converted to curves. I'm going to go over here to Object Properties, and I'm going to change my outline to, let's say, right there, and I'll go behind fill scale with image. I'm going to round my corners and end caps. I want a little bit more than that. Let's try 2.5. 2.5 will be good. And I like that kind of setup like that. I want to add an effect to this. So I'm going to go to my Advanced Tools. I'm going to go to my Fashion Factory 3. I'm going to go to Textures. I'll go to System Textures. I'm just going to add something that I can add some distress to this with. Real easy here. And looking at something that's got a little bit of distress in it here. Actually, I'll just go ahead with this right here. And I'll go Apply as Texture. Go ahead and close that. Now here I'm going to take this, I'm going to go to my transparency tool. I'm going to have this on, let's say, fill only. And with that set up, I think I want to go ahead and reverse this. I think it's a little bit much here. And I think that'll be fine right there. And then I can actually go ahead and left click here and we'll move this around a little bit. And rotate this here just a bit. See where we get the best look for the effect here. Something like that. And one of the powerful benefits of CorelDRAW is you can apply these effects from the Fashion Factory and then actually tweak them in or dial them in. So here we have our MMA fighter design set up. We designed it on the front of a shirt, and all we're going to need, or actually the front of a shirt, and all we're going to need at this point is to actually just go ahead and do our color separations. Well, at this point in time, I'm going to start working with Simple Steps Raster. I'm going to go ahead and take this. This image is 11 inches wide. If I want to make it a little bigger, I can. I'm going to take this right up there, about 12 inches wider. So I'm going to go to Bitmaps, Convert to Bitmaps. I'm going to go with an RGB, transparent background. Don't need anti-aliasing because of the text, and select OK. So now this is ready to go. Now what I want to do is to take this and just go ahead and I'll hit Control C, and I'm going to create a new document. I'll select OK, and we'll go ahead and make this document 13 inches. And we got to go ahead and select everything here. By 19 inches. And hit enter. Then go ahead and paste this in. I'm just going to set this up on the page for now. Now this is what I'm going to use to create my separations. So just go ahead and go to Advanced Tools, and we'll open up our Simple Steps Raster. Now I know that my colors in here are actually just the red, the yellow, and the black, and we're not going to use the black because we're going to use the shirt for the black. So all we're going to need is a white base, red and yellow, because I know the flesh is coming from red and yellow. So I'll just come in here and I'll select red and yellow. You can see these lighting up, and that's really what you're doing here, is you're just selecting the colors you want to pull with a visual graphics user interface. I'm going to come here and I'm going to select my underbase here so that I'll have an underbase, and I don't want to choke or a spot solid, and then I'm just going to go ahead and click on Click Steps, and Simple Steps Raster will automatically generate my high-end color separations for me directly in CorelDRAW. Now once my separations have finished processing, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to take these back into the page I started in. I want to go ahead and hit Control C here, and we're going to go back here to the page we started with. Now we didn't pull the black, but we do want to take a look at this side by side based on what we started with, and we want to take a look at a few things here. Okay, now you can see that this looks kind of dull or faded out, and that's because we want to change some things here. I want to go here to my yellow and my red. I'm selecting them over here in my Object Manager Docker by holding down my Shift key. But I'm going to right click over here and I'm going to change these to Overprint Outline. I'm going to go to View and I'm going to select Simulate Overprints. Now you can see the change there. Now you realize that there's not black here, and that's what we're missing in the design. But if I go ahead and add some black to this, just create some black here, black rectangle, and we'll right click and we'll select Order and we'll go to Back of Page, you can see what we've got here. We've got a very good representation. Not quite as dark as this, but it should work just fine, as you can see here. Now if you wanted to, you could separate and print the black with this, but I think it would be just fine without it. And you'll have just a two-color design, because I'm going to make another adjustment here. I'm going to go here, I'm going to select these two colors, my red and my yellow. I'm going to come down here to the red, I'll left click and hold down. Actually, let me move this color palette so we can look at this with those two colors selected. And I want to go to my orange here, just left click, hold down and get like a flesh color here, and then right click to change that color, and you can see what colors we're getting here. Maybe something a little bit more reddish. That's a little bit too red. But we could use something like a flesh color out of the can in the shop as a flesh, and have this down with just an underbase and this flesh color and get a decent print working with just two colors. Now let's take a look at separating this, and I'll separate this using Simple Seps 3, which actually we have that now set up as Simple Seps Smart Rip, and we call it Smart Rip because now it gives you a live halftone preview of your halftones after you generate your color separations. So we've got two colors here, even though there's two sets of objects. I'm going to go to Advanced Tools. I'm going to go to Simple Seps 3. That's going to open up my Simple Seps Smart Rip. I'm going to create color selection. I'm going to select all, and we'll go ahead and do a one-click conversion on that. And then I'm going to go to my separations here, and I'm going to go underneath my halftones. If I want to do all black, I can do that. I can also select or deselect the colors that I will be separating, but I'm going to need both of these for the design that I'll be working on, or the separation I'll be working with. If I wanted to create another base, I could do that also. I'm going to go ahead here and click on Generate Separations. Now because this is set to overprinting, it's going to come out just fine. I'm going to go ahead and click on Generate Separations and select OK and let that process, and I'll have a halftone preview. So I have a good idea of exactly what I'm going to get on press based on what I see from my halftones in CorelDRAW. And this is a ripping functionality that you won't find in any of the other rips on the market. And as long as you've got like a continuous ink system or something like that set up with your inkjet and you're printing all black, you'll be able to print rich, dark, deep halftones ripped directly in CorelDRAW. Now there's a lot of benefits we have from that. We get the halftone preview, but we can also edit our halftones and review things before we go to screen. Now once that's finished processing, we're actually here on our halftone preview page, and we don't have any color behind this, so we can't see the white, so we can't really tell what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and create a black rectangle here. I'll fill this with black, and then I'll just go ahead and right click on this and I'll select Order, and we'll go to Back of Page. Now here's my actual halftones, and when we zoom in we'll get a really good look at this. And we can see what's going on here. Now the way Corel renders this, these halftones, isn't very soft because it's a monochrome bitmap. But we can deal with that. And one of the things I often like to do is take this halftone that I've generated, and you can see I've got my other separations on the subsequent pages here, is that I can take this, and let's say we want to create a comp of the actual halftone for the client. That way there's no question about what you're showing as a comp and what's going to be coming out on press. Now I realize things like dot gain and stuff like that will have some effect on your print, but this is going to be very close to what the actual print will look like. I'll go to bitmaps and we'll select Convert to Bitmap. I'm going to go with, we'll say, because this is so big, 150 dpi. Turn on anti-aliasing, transparent background, RGB, and we'll let that process. And we'll get a very accurate idea of what our halftone separations are going to look like, and then we can actually put those on a comp and send those to a client. Now this is a very big image. It's 12 inches wide by 14 inches high, and I'm recording video, so it's going to take Corel just a minute to render this. Now, when we've done our rendering from the monochrome to the RGB, once again we see the same type of issue with the rendering of the graphic. But if we add just a touch of blur to this, I'll go to bitmaps, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'll go like right here with 0.6 pixels and select OK and let that process. Now we've got a really nice halftone preview that's rendering correctly in Draw, because this is really kind of like what's going to happen with our ink when we get on press. Now I can take this image, I'll go ahead and delete this background. I could take this image, go to my design base, which is right here, and go ahead and give this a full front comp and change this comp color to, let's say, a darker gray here with some black for the shading, and bring this fighter in, and we'll go ahead and resize this here on the t-shirt. And here we've got a halftone generated comp that we can send to our client of our design. And this is very much what we would be getting off of press when we print it on the black shirt. So we can see how powerful we can work even with just two colors if we understand how to use our applications and we have the right tools. And as I said, you can imagine if there's an event in your area and your client's showing up with these t-shirts and the other guys are showing up with simple clip art stuff, you're going to have a huge advantage, and these people are going to ask them, where did you get these t-shirts? And next thing you know, they're going to be coming to you. So we'll go ahead and wrap here, and we'll see you in our next tutorial session.